Okay, and welcome to In-Class Lab 7 arrays. And in this particular problem, we're using two arrays, and they're parallel, as was talked about in the chapter. And let's see if I can zoom in on this. Here's what your output's going to look like. This is just a parts and price list. It's just, there's really no processing to it other than concatenating some strings and building an output string. So there's your title, and there's a little dashed line. So for part number 6231895, we have a price of $55.75. So in the part number array, you'll get this, and in the price array, you'll get that. And if you'll notice, I've got those already declared for you. I've given you some starting code, and we're going to go all the way through this in this video. So you have to use the make array statement. You give it a name, and you tell it the highest index. Now, as you remember from the chapter, the index always starts at 0 and ends at 1 less than the number of elements. So how many elements are in these arrays? Well, let's count them and see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1 less than 5 is what? 4. Now, apparently when I did this, I kind of threw it together because I've got some constants down here. And these will have to be moved down below that. But I've got a min and a max. And then that also helps for the loop as well, which we're going to show you. So I'll show you that in just a minute. I just wanted to talk to you about it. So we're going to generate this output. We're going to use a for loop. We have two constants, min and max, 0 and 4, and the count variable for the loop structure. We're going to use tab string and a carriage return line feed as appropriate. Because the reason we're doing that now is we're building the string dynamically, because in reality this would be coming from a database, and you may not know, well, you won't know how many parts and prices they're going to be. So you have to build it dynamically, otherwise you have a fixed size loop and it just won't work. All right, so let's go ahead and go to my code here. Now remember that I've kind of reworked this a little bit. I put all my constants and variables up here, and then I've got my make arrays down below these constants because I'm using min and max. Well, you can't use min and max until they're defined, so that's one thing that's different from the little PDF. So let's look at CRLF and tab. In order to do these, you basically start off with an empty string like that, hold in a control key and hit your enter key, and that will actually put that carriage return line feed in there. Otherwise, it's going to hit the OK. See, that's a default. All right, for a tab, it's the same way. And we'll take that out and put it back in for you. There's my opening, closing double quotes, control, and tab. And now those will embed that in our string. Now, the string in memory is just one long string, but as it's being rendered by your device, whether it be a printer or a video card, it will, when it sees a tab, it will put a tab in there. When it sees a carriage return line feed, it'll put a new line in there. So that what we're going to do is we're going to format and build the string dynamically as we go. All right. Now you have to declare these arrays right here. Now you can pause the video. I'm not going to type all this in, but just make sure you got the same number of digits in there. So there's part num, and there are my 5 elements, or the fourth array is 1 less than 5. Always start at 0. These are strings, so you have to put them, like that. And here's my price. All right. So I've got price at index 0 is this string, price at index 1. Same thing here, that's index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 of that array. And the same here. So you have to declare something in that array, or you'll get an out of bounds error. And this is my title. String output equals, and notice that we do have a string output up here somewhere. Where is it? Well, I didn't declare it. How about that? I need to do that. Oh, I am declaring it here. I'm sorry. I forget that you can do this in Visual Logic. So string output equals parts and price list, ampersand, which is a concatenation symbol, new line, ampersand, my little dashed line, ampersand, new line. Okay. Right. So that's what that's doing. Now this actually could be, anywhere up here after the control and tab. You could put it up there, and probably ought to go up there. But I put it down here. That's not a good, because this is a declaration. I'm just initializing it to this first line here. All right, so we have a for loop. My loop control variable is called count. What did we initialize that to? 0, because we're starting at index 0. So it matches up with the arrays quite nicely. We have the min as our initial value is 0, a max value of 4, and we step by 1. Okay, so we increment by 1 every time. Now here's my string output. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm building on this string dynamically as we go. So every time we come through here, I've got, let me look at this, string output equals string output. So it pulls what was in there previously out, which in this case, in the first pass, would just be that title and those CRLFs and all that. Ampersand, so I'm concatenating onto that what's already in there, the part number at count, which is 0 in this case, right? Because that's the indices. That also is the loop control variable. Ampersand my tab, ampersand my price array at that same index. Let's see, these are parallel. So if this is index, part number is at index 0, then the price for that part number is going to be at the same index. They're parallel arrays. Ampersand, I just stuck a couple of spaces in there to clean it up a little bit. Ampersand, new line, all right? So every time we go through here, we're adding at a different index the part number and the price, okay? And then at the end, and only there am I outputting that string. It's already built with all the formatting and everything in it, and it's just outputting. So this is a dynamic string, basically, and playing with arrays too. So, all right, so you'll want to make sure that you type all this in to initialize part num and type all of this in to initialize price. This is just a header. It's just initializing the string output to that. This is our for loop where we're looping through. Now we're starting at index 0 and going to index 4, which is what we have in here. If you were to go to index 5, you get an out of bounds array. Okay? There is no index 5. There is an item 5 because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There are 5 elements in there. But since we're starting at index 0, we always end at 1 less than the number of elements, which is 4, because there's 5 elements in there. All right, so let's run it and see what we get. There it is. And the reason I put the spaces over here at the end was because this would wind up right up against your text. There's my tab, so we print that. We got a new line character, CRLF. Print that because we're concatenating that together as we initialize the output string. And then we put a new line in there, and that puts us right here. Okay, so then we do the part number at count in our loop, tab, price at count in our loop, new line, plus those spaces. That puts us over here. So it just renders the whole thing just like that. Okay? So make sure you understand how that works. This should be relatively easy because it's mostly just output. All right? We will see you in class.